The Sherlock Holmes series, written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, is one of the most iconic and influential works in detective fiction. Centered around the brilliant but eccentric detective Sherlock Holmes and his loyal companion Dr. John Watson, the stories take place in late 19th and early 20th century London, a time of industrial revolution and significant social change. Holmes is celebrated for his extraordinary powers of observation, logical reasoning, and deductive skills, which he uses to solve complex crimes that baffle the police. Through over 50 short stories and 4 full-length novels, the Sherlock Holmes series has not only set the standard for detective fiction, but also created a character that transcends literature, becoming a lasting cultural phenomenon. Plot summary: Introduction to Sherlock Holmes, the first Sherlock Holmes story, A Study in Scarlet, 1887, introduces readers to both Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson. Watson, a retired Army doctor, meets Holmes through a mutual acquaintance after returning to London. Needing a roommate to share living expenses, they move into the famous 221B Baker Street apartment. Watson is quickly intrigued by Holmes's unusual profession as a consulting detective, a role that allows him to assist Scotland Yard and private clients in solving cases that require specialized skills in observation and reasoning. In A Study in Scarlet, the duo takes on a mysterious case involving the murder of a man found in an abandoned house with the word "Rach" written on the wall. Through Holmes's unique abilities, he solves the crime, which is rooted in a complex backstory involving the American West, religious zealotry, and revenge. Watson, deeply impressed by Holmes' methods, begins documenting their cases, which become the basis for the famous stories that follow. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, 1892, the first collection of short stories, solidifies the partnership between Holmes and Watson. These stories introduce readers to the various facets of Holmes's character and method, as well as some of the recurring characters, including Inspector Lestrade of Scotland Yard and Mrs. Hudson, their landlady. These cases also showcase Holmes's versatility, his ability to solve a wide range of mysteries, from missing persons to theft and murder. One of the most famous stories in this collection is A Scandal in Bohemia, in which Holmes faces one of his most formidable opponents, Irene Adler. Unlike many of Holmes's adversaries, Adler is not a criminal, but she outwits Holmes by outsmarting him in a case involving the King of Bohemia. Adler's success earns her a special place in Holmes' mind, and she is one of the few characters Holmes holds in high regard. Other notable stories in this collection include The Adventure of the Speckled Band, which features a locked room mystery and a sinister villain, Dr. Grimesby Roylott. The clever resolution of this case showcases Holmes's forensic skills and knowledge of obscure scientific facts. The Red-Headed League is another classic tale in which Holmes uncovers a complex bank robbery plot using seemingly unrelated clues. The Sign of Four. In the second full-length novel, The Sign of Four, 1890, Watson's personal life takes a significant turn. The story involves the mysterious disappearance of Mary Morstan's father and a complex plot involving treasure, betrayal, and murder. As Holmes and Watson investigate, they uncover a conspiracy involving 4 convicts from India who had once made a pact over stolen treasure. The case is solved with Holmes's usual flair, but the personal significance of this story is that Watson falls in love with Mary Morstan, whom he later marries. The novel also delves deeper into Holmes's personality, showing the darker sides of his character. It becomes clear that Holmes struggles with boredom and depression when he is not working on a case. To cope with these feelings, he frequently resorts to drug use, specifically cocaine. This aspect of Holmes' personality adds complexity to his character, as he is shown to be both brilliant and flawed, driven by an insatiable need for intellectual stimulation. The Hound of the Baskervilles. The Hound of the Baskervilles, 1902, is perhaps the most famous Sherlock Holmes novel. Set in the eerie, fog-covered moors of Devonshire, this story blends elements of Gothic horror with detective fiction. The novel begins with Dr. Watson traveling to the Baskerville estate to investigate the mysterious death of Sir Charles Baskerville, who appears to have been frightened to death by the legendary Baskerville curse, a supernatural hound said to haunt the family. Watson takes center stage in much of the novel, as Holmes initially stays behind in London. Watson's observations of the strange occurrences at Baskerville Hall and his interactions with the colorful characters of the moor drive the story forward. When Holmes finally arrives, he pieces together the clues and uncovers a plot involving an inheritance scheme, revealing that the hound was in fact a large dog used to scare Sir Charles to death. The interplay between rational detective work and the suggestion of supernatural forces makes this one of the most atmospheric and gripping stories in the Holmes canon. The final problem and the return of Sherlock Holmes. One of the defining moments in the Sherlock Holmes series occurs in The Final Problem, 1893, where Holmes faces his greatest nemesis, Professor James Moriarty. Moriarty is described as the Napoleon of crime, a brilliant and ruthless criminal mastermind who controls a vast network of crime in London. The story sees Holmes on the run from Moriarty's agents, culminating in their dramatic confrontation at the Reichenbach Falls in Switzerland. In one of the most shocking moments in literary history, Holmes and Moriarty struggle at the edge of the falls, and both appear to fall to their deaths. Doyle had grown tired of writing about Holmes and intended to kill him off, believing that the detective's story had run its course. However, the public's reaction was overwhelmingly negative, so much so that readers wore black armbands in mourning for Holmes. Under immense pressure, Doyle eventually brought Holmes back in The Adventure of the Empty House, 1903, revealing that Holmes had faked his death to escape Moriarty's associates. Later adventures. After Holmes' return, Doyle continued to write new stories, many of which appeared in The Return of Sherlock Holmes, 1905, and His Last Beau, 1917. These stories follow a more mature Holmes, often dealing with international intrigue and espionage. Holmes' retirement from active detective work is explored in His Last Beau, where he re-emerges from obscurity to foil a German spy ring on the eve of World War I. This story shows Holmes as an aging but still formidable figure, dedicated to his country in a time of crisis. Character analysis. Sherlock Holmes. Holmes is one of the most iconic and enduring characters in all of literature. He is a complex figure, blending intellect, eccentricity, and emotional detachment. Holmes's defining characteristic is his ability to observe and deduce. He can solve crimes by noticing the smallest details that others overlook. His logical mind operates at an almost superhuman level, allowing him to make connections between seemingly unrelated facts and quickly arrive at the truth. However, Holmes is not without his flaws. He often comes across as cold and unemotional, prioritizing logic over human feelings. His relationships with others, including Watson, are marked by a certain aloofness, though he clearly values Watson's friendship. Holmes also struggles with boredom, which leads him to his occasional use of drugs when he has no cases to solve. Despite these flaws, Holmes' brilliance, integrity, and dedication to justice make him a beloved figure. Dr. John Watson. Watson serves as the everyman, the lens through which readers experience the stories. His admiration for Holmes is clear, but he also humanizes the detective by providing emotional warmth and stability. Watson is brave, loyal, and dependable, always willing to accompany Holmes on dangerous missions despite lacking his friend's deductive powers. His role as the chronicler of Holmes's adventures allows readers to experience the thrill of the cases while also grounding the stories in a more relatable perspective. Watson's personal life, particularly his marriage to Mary Morstan, provides moments of warmth and normalcy amidst the often dark and dangerous cases. Though Watson may not possess Holmes's intellect, he proves himself time and again as an invaluable partner, offering moral support and physical courage when needed. Professor Moriarty. Moriarty is Holmes' arch nemesis, the embodiment of the criminal mind. He appears only briefly in the stories, but his presence looms large as the ultimate foil to Holmes. Moriarty is as brilliant as Holmes, but his intelligence is turned to evil, making him a dangerous adversary. His criminal empire is vast and well organized, and he operates in the shadows, rarely revealing himself. The rivalry between Holmes and Moriarty is a classic example of the battle between good and evil, with Moriarty representing the dark side of human intellect. Irene Adler. Although she appears in only one story, A Scandal in Bohemia, Irene Adler is a significant character in the Holmes universe. She is the only person to outsmart Holmes, earning his lasting respect. Unlike most of Holmes's adversaries, Adler is not a criminal, but a woman of exceptional intelligence and resourcefulness. Her victory over Holmes in the case involving the King of Bohemia makes her a memorable figure and a rare equal to the great detective. Conclusion. The Sherlock Holmes series by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle has had an unparalleled impact on detective fiction and popular culture. With its engaging mysteries, complex characters, and vivid portrayal of Victorian London, the series has captivated readers for over a century. Holmes's deductive prowess, combined with Watson's humanity, creates a dynamic partnership that has become the gold standard for literary detectives. The themes of justice, logic, and the battle between good and evil resonate deeply, ensuring that Sherlock Holmes remains an enduring and beloved figure in the literary canon. Created for Squeeze That Book channel. Please subscribe to follow new videos and leave a comment with your thoughts about the book.